WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have a product from the Malts of Scotland, MoS, Heaven Hill, 1999 distilled, 2019 actually bottled. This is the MoS 19033 bottling, 55.2%. Look at that wonderful bottle. If you ever see a bottle that looks like this, it's probably with that label on there. It's probably from Masters of Malt. I want to say Masters of Malt. Malts of Scotland. And this is actually whiskey base number 142711. 100 euros, so about $125. One of 533 bottles. Most of those were actually sold here in Germany and the Netherlands. Maybe some of them made it to the UK, maybe one or two made it actually to the States. Now, the special thing about this was a 3-year-old whiskey in the States. So it spent its first 3 years in a virgin oak cask. And then it was refilled into a sherry butt for the following, listen to me, 17 years. So the first 3 years was spent basically into Kentucky, came over to Germany and spent the last 17 years in the city of Paderborn, in the middle basically of Germany, more towards the Netherlands. So this is a very, very special bottle. Now, Thomas Evers, he is the founder and the president of Malts of Scotland. He was just once again recognized in Scotland as one of the best independent bottlers of Scotch whiskey in the world. This guy's doing an excellent, excellent job. And about 2 or 3 years ago, he actually bottled about 4 or 5 different special bourbons that he had brought over. Some of them were in sherry, some of them weren't, some of them had special names and so on. The Basilica of Bardstown, for example, was one of them. And they're usually a little bit unusual, yeah? Because what happens is the climate in Kentucky is much, much different than in Europe, especially in Paderborn, Germany. And so the whiskey doesn't mature in the same way as it would. Now, this is a single cask. This was 100 euros, as I said. This sold out within weeks over here in Germany because people just love his quality of products. And just take a look at that color. Look at how dark red that is. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually compare it to something else from Heaven Hill. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So this is actually the 62.13%. This is the batch number B517 here over in Europe, the 700 milliliter bottle. And so we're just going to compare the two. Now, this is not a very, very, very fair comparison because this did not have 17 years of sherry cask maturation. This did. This costs a lot less. I'm paying over here about 65 euros for this. I'm paying 100 euros for this if you can find it, because the 533 bottles were sold out fairly quickly. I really do like the design. It's very, very simplistic, but all the information is on here. I have bottle number 60 of 533, distilled 1999, bottled 2019, 20-year-old, cask number MoS 1903333, finished in a sherry butt. All the information that you need is basically on there. Heaven Hill Sherry Finish stands here with the barcode. So, now on the nose, I'm getting a very, very sherried, very, very fruity. We're talking about forest fruits. We're talking about blackberries. We're talking about raspberries. We're talking about cranberries. We're talking about strawberries, wild strawberries. Very overripe wild strawberries. Put them all in a mixer, just mix them up and just taste those like a smoothie type of red, dark, rich smoothie flavor. Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to guess this was an Oloroso type of sherry cask. It's not the PX, it's not the Pedro Jimenez, it's not the dark raisins, it's not a Fino, it's not that little bit of light raisins. It's a very dark, fruity moment, which is nice actually. The bottle of wow. This is fantastic. This is good. This is very, very nice. So let's nip on it. 55.2%. Shouldn't be that too bad, right? This is hot. Now, before this video, I've had some Stag Junior. I've not undiluted. I've had some bottle of Wow. I had a Private Select 55%. I've been having some Maker's Mark 55%. I've been having some fairly high hitters before this. Nothing hits my tongue like this does. Now why? First of all, you must remember a barrel does one of two things. First of all, there's a additive type of maturation to add something to your whiskey. Look at the color, look at the flavor. The sherry is added to the whiskey. Now the second thing, which should happen because of the toasting, the char, because of the wood of the whiskey, that charcoal filtration should be going on, and the whiskey should be losing a lot of its edge. It should be softening. It should be much, much more mellow. It should be actually becoming a much, much smoother product. The older it gets, the better and the smoother it gets. Now, the more tannins are also added, but we'll forget about that for the moment. Now, what happened here in this cask is for some reason it was very wet. There's a lot of sherry, but there's not a lot of interaction going on with the cask from the standpoint of this smoothing out this whiskey. This 55 point is very peppery, very, very hot, very, very vibrant in the mouth. As a comparison, probably, let's call this still, it's the 12-year-old, let's say it's 12-year-old, even though there is no 12 on this anymore. Let's hope that it's still about 12 years old, so about half the same age. Mm. 62%. It's like honey in comparison. Smooth, rich, soft. A tiny little dancing of pins on my tongue, but there's not a tiny little bit towards the end of finish, a little bit of a heat, but nothing compared to this. Now, I must admit that this is a very bourbony type of taste. You have your brown sugars, you have your cinnamons, you have your vanillas, you have your pecans, you have a little bit of the wood in there. Over here, you're getting concentrated, red, dark berries, even like a Concord grape, blackberries, raspberries, black currants, overripe forest strawberries. This is very, very, very intense, all due to that sherry moment. And I think the sherry just overpowers everything here. If you like it, hey, why not? I actually, in my German video, compared this to a other very sherried whiskey I have. Is the Glenrothes Whiskey Maker's Cut with 48.8%. I wanted to see if I could actually pick out the difference between a very heavily sherried Scotch and a very heavily sherried bourbon. Could I do it on the nose? Yes. It is evident that this is a bourbon. It still remains a bourbon, but if you're looking for a normal bourbon and you just want something a little bit different, I'm sorry. If you want something very different, that's what this is, all right? If you want something which is, you normally will never find in the States a 17-year-old sherry matured bourbon anywhere. 17 years ago, 2002, who was thinking of doing something like that? Well, I don't know many people. But over here in Germany, Thomas Aver from the Malts of Scotland did it, and he is somewhat of a genius, I must admit. Now, I must also admit that this really, really doesn't hit my flavor profile. This is not the type of bourbon that I'm going to go, wow, go buy. This is the type of thing where we have collectors and we have specialists and we have people who says, I want something totally outside I want something far right field. That's what this is, all right? If you want a great, I don't have it here, a minor case rye sherry cask whiskey. That is excellent, actually, all right? A tiny little bit of sherry into that rye together with a minor case. Wow, that's good. This is sherry compact. It's just like compressed. It's like totally squeezed in there. Like I said, like that smoothie. It's just so concentrated. It's just amazing. So what do we need to do if something's too concentrated? Well, we add some water. I'm not doing the 2 drops. I'm trying to dilute it down to maybe about 48, maybe 50%. Now the nose does get a lot more enjoyable, I must admit. Now, if you would have asked me, I would have done maybe a 48% version of this. Now, I know that Malts of Scotland like to do their non-chilled filtered, cask strength, blah blah blah. Excellent, excellent, excellent. But sometimes a whiskey actually has a little sweet spot that's not at cask strength. Hmm. 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 For me, actually, the 48, maybe even 50% would have been here perfect for this. Now, the fruity berryness still overpowers everything. Um, it's a lot of berry, actually. Wow, it's a lot of berries in there. But it's still much more the spice, the hot, the pepper, the alcohol dissipates, and actually, it's now more enjoyable. All right, so what am I going to give this? I'm going to actually give this here, in my personal opinion, with water, more of a C, maybe even a C plus if I'm really, really generous with the water. But it's not a bourbon note. It would be more of a mutated bourbon type of grade here. A value for money, 100 euros, $120. Also there, I'm going to go for more like a C minus type of thing. This is not something I can highly recommend for anyone to buy, to look out for. I'm sure if you're going to get in the secondary market, you're going to be paying $200+ for this. Is it really, really worth it? If you want to have a mutated type of bourbon, go for it. If you want to have the sherry monster in your bourbon glass, go for it. But to be honest, I think there's better ways to spend your money. And other things like this. Even a Booker's would be actually more up my alley than this for the typical bourbon drinker. All right, thank you very much. Now, my question of the day is, number one, what is your favorite bottling of Malts of Scotland that you've ever seen and or ever tasted? Now, many of you have never seen or never tasted anything from Malts of Scotland. So my second question is, what is your favorite sherried American whiskey? It can be something with single malt or it can be a bourbon or anything else. What is your favorite whiskey from the United States of America that has seen a sherry cask to the inside? Think of a legend or other things like that, which are very, very interesting and very, very nice. Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American here in Europe. I'm going to say Europe more than Germany now, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Thank you very much for watching. All the best. See you soon. Bye bye.